For 15 years, Miles Carter had lived without a single human touch, not even by accident, not even by the woman he was meant to marry. Touch burned him, literally. It was the one thing his billion-pound empire could never protect him from. The quiet agony of human contact. But everything changed the day a maid stumbled into his chest by mistake. And for the first time in years, his body felt nothing but calm. Her name was Bray Lawson, a girl who took the live-in maid job because her mother lay in a hospital bed. And saving her mother required more money than she could ever earn on her own. She didn't know she would be the only touch he could bear. He didn't know she would become the only person he couldn't live without. Hello, family. Welcome to Tales with Francis Stories. Please subscribe and leave a comment. It truly means the world to us. Don't forget to share this video with your friends and loved ones, and turn on your post notifications so you never miss a new story. Miles's trauma didn't come from one event. It came from a childhood filled with the wrong kind of touch. He grew up in a home with no affection, no gentle hands, no warmth. His mother died early, and his father traveled constantly, leaving him with people who treated him like an inconvenience rather than a child. Every time someone touched him, it came with impatience, roughness, by goading, display, unpredictability, never comfort, never safety. The worst moment came when he was 9. A household accident filled the house with smoke, and in the panic, they had grabbed him too roughly, pulling him from room to room. They didn't mean to hurt him, but to a terrified child, every pull, every tug, every hand felt like pain. After that day, something inside him changed. His skin developed tactile trauma response, a condition where the nervous system reacts to touch as if it is danger. Even gentle contact triggered burning pain. Doctors said it was caused by emotional neglect, childhood stress, and one overwhelming traumatic moment. A mixture strong enough to rewire the body. And for 15 years, no one could touch him. Until Bray. The cold wind whipped against Bray Lawson's coat as she hurried down Queen Mary's hospital corridor, her breath fogging the air. Machines beeped softly. Nurses whispered. Everything smelled like disinfectant and worry. Bray slipped into her mother's room and took her hand gently. "Mom, I'm here." Her mother tried to smile, though even smiling seemed like effort. "You shouldn't rush around this much, darling. You need to rest." Bray shook her head. She couldn't rest. Not when the doctor had just told her, "Your mother needs longer admission, medication adjustments, and more tests. It will be expensive." That word expensive sat like a stone in her chest. All she needed was a Christmas miracle. Bray already worked 2 jobs, a cafe by morning, cleaning offices by night. Sometimes she helped elderly neighbors for a few extra pounds. But the country wasn't kind to people who were poor and desperate. She squeezed her mother's hand. "I'll figure something out. I promise." When her mother drifted into sleep, Bray stepped outside and leaned against the cold wall, fighting back tears she didn't have time to shed. Her phone buzzed. A message from a neighbor. "Bray, look, a billionaire in Holland Park is hiring a live-in maid. Good pay. Apply." Bray opened the link with trembling fingers. This could be it. She whispered a silent prayer. Miles Carter, London's untouchable billionaire. Quiet. Private. Distant. Always wearing thick black leather gloves. Rumors said he hated people. Rumors said he hated touch. Rumors said nobody had ever seen him without those gloves. But Bray didn't care about rumors. She cared about the hospital bill waiting in her bag. She cared about her mother's heartbeat. She cared about survival. A live-in maid job meant steady salary, free accommodation, free food, and enough money to keep her mother alive. She wiped her eyes, straightened her coat, and headed for the tube. She was going to Holland Park. Miles Carter sat in his study, staring out at the winter gray skyline. He knew exactly what the world thought of him, and it had never bothered him. Cold, strange, distant, obsessive about personal space, always in gloves. He preferred it that way. He was engaged to Naomi Sterling, a woman he respected but did not love. And he knew without needing to be told that she didn't love him either. She loved the access, the influence, the way doors opened when she stood beside him, It was an arrangement between wealthy families. Nothing more. Something decided long before he ever cared enough to resist. Miles accepted it the same way he accepted every part of his life. Quietly, calmly, without complaint. When the house manager entered and said, "Sir, a new candidate will be coming to interview for the live-in maid position," Miles simply nodded. Very well. He had no idea the girl walking into his mansion tomorrow would become the one person who changed his life forever. Bray stepped into the marble hallway of the Holland Park mansion, her heart thudding with every echo of her footsteps. The house manager, Mr. Hargreaves, met her with a firm nod. "Miss Lawson, please follow me." He walked briskly, speaking as they moved. "Mr. Carter values order and space. Please keep a respectful distance. Do not ask unnecessary questions." Then his voice grew even quieter. "And whatever you do, do not touch him." Bray blinked. "Sir?" "Just follow instructions," he said. "It's for his safety and yours." Bray swallowed hard and nodded. She needed this job more than she needed answers. When Miles finally entered the room, Bray felt her breath hitch. He wasn't what she expected. Not cold, not monstrous, not cruel, just quiet, controlled. A man with too much locked behind his eyes. The black gloves were real, the stillness even more so. Bray stepped back instinctively, lowering her gaze. "Good morning, sir," she whispered. Miles studied her. He noticed the tiredness on her face, the way she held her hands together tightly, the steadiness of her voice despite the trembling of her heart. She didn't stare at him like others. She didn't fidget. She didn't flood the air with unnecessary noise. Her presence was gentle and surprisingly calm. After a long pause, he spoke. "She'll do." Bray's knees nearly buckled with relief. As Miles walked away, he felt something strange, something he hadn't felt around a new person in years. No tension, no discomfort, no instinctive need to step back. Just quiet. He didn't understand why. Bray settled into her routine over the next few days. Early mornings, quiet hallways, fresh linens, polished floors, a mansion big enough to swallow sound. She moved gently, carefully, like someone who didn't want to disturb the house or the man who owned it. And Miles noticed. He noticed how she didn't slam doors, didn't speak unless spoken to, didn't stare at him the way most people did. She blended into the atmosphere like soft wind. He wasn't sure what it meant, only that her presence felt strangely peaceful. But everything changed 3 days later. The moment that would rewrite both their lives forever. Bray woke before dawn on her 4th day in the mansion. Her body was tired from long shifts at the cafe and sleepless nights worrying over her mother. But her heart held on to one thing. This job was hope. Hope for rent. Hope for survival. Hope for one more day her mother could stay in the hospital bed and breathe without fear. She tied her braids back, pinned them neatly, and stepped into the quiet corridors. Morning light had not yet touched the mansion. Everything felt still, cool, waiting. The Holland Park mansion was the kind of place where footsteps echoed like confessions. Bray moved like she'd been born in silence, her soft shoes whispering across polished marble. She carried fresh towels toward the private hallway leading to the master suite. Miles Carter's wing, the one place she always worked, the slowest, the calmest, the quietest. She didn't want to cause trouble. She didn't want to lose this job. She didn't want to be noticed by the man who intimidated everyone, with nothing but a single glance. Meanwhile, Miles stood under the steaming shower of his marble bathroom, letting the warm water wash away the metallic tightness that came with sleepless nights. He rarely slept well. He rarely rested. But today, something was different. He felt strangely clear, strangely light. He stepped out of the shower, towel around his waist, hair damp, unaware that Bray Lawson stood just outside. She had placed the fresh stack of towels outside the bathroom door. One towel slipped from the top and fell quietly to the floor. She bent to pick it up. Her hair fell forward. Her fingers brushed the soft cotton. She rose with the towel in hand, just as Miles stepped into the hallway. He didn't see her. She didn't see him. Not until it was too late. His foot landed on a small patch of water, still clinging to the polished tile. His balance shifted. His weight leaned forward. At the same moment, Bray turned and collided straight into him. The towel slipped from her hand. Her breath caught, and she fell forward against his bare chest. Her palm flattened over his skin. Her shoulder pressed into him. Her entire weight leaned onto him for half a heartbeat. Bare skin, bare touch, direct contact. For the first time in 15 years, Miles froze. His breath locked in his lungs. His entire body braced for the familiar burn. That violent sting that always came from human touch. But instead, there was nothing. No pain. No heat. No fire beneath his skin. Just warmth. Just breath. Just her. Bray gasped and stumbled back, eyes wide with horror. I'm so sorry, sir. I didn't know you were coming out. I swear I didn't mean to touch you. She was terrified he might fire her. Terrified he might shout. Terrified her mistake had cost her the one thing she needed to keep her mother alive. Miles barely heard her. He was staring at his own chest, like it was a foreign part of him. His skin wasn't red, wasn't reacting, wasn't burning. It was normal. He whispered, breath unsteady. You touched me. Bray froze, cheeks burning in shame. Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Miles looked up at her slowly. Every emotion in his eyes tangled into confusion. And it didn't hurt. The shock in his voice made Bray's heart pound harder. She didn't understand what that meant. She didn't know why. He looked stunned. She didn't know what kind of pain he expected. All she knew was that she had broken the most important rule in the mansion. I'm sorry, she whispered again. Miles stepped back, not out of fear, but out of disbelief about himself. You may go, he said softly. Distracted, Bray hurried away, mortified, clutching the fallen towel. Miles remained in the hallway long after she left, his chest rising and falling, his fingers trembling slightly, his thoughts scattered. He looked at the doorway Bray had fled through. Her touch didn't hurt him. Her touch didn't poison his nerves with pain. Her touch was the first in 15 years that felt like nothing at all. Peace, relief, normal. His heart pounded with the weight of a truth he couldn't ignore. Why, didn't she hurt me? Miles didn't attend meetings that morning. He didn't check emails. He didn't touch breakfast. He sat in his study, staring at his bare hands like they belonged to someone else. One thought circled relentlessly. Maybe I'm healed. There was only one way to know for sure. He needed a familiar touch, a controlled test, someone who had triggered painful reactions before, someone safe. His fiancée, Naomi Sterling. He dialed her number. When she walked into the living room later that afternoon, she noticed instantly. You're not wearing your gloves? Her voice held surprise, followed by annoyance. Miles didn't waste time. He stepped toward her and gently placed his bare hand over hers. The reaction was instant. A burning sting shot up his arm. His skin reddened. The nerves screamed in pain. He remembered too well. Miles jerked his hand back with a quiet hiss. Naomi yanked her hand away. What on earth is wrong with you? Are you trying to hurt yourself? Miles didn't respond. His eyes were distant, his breathing shallow, his mind racing with one undeniable truth. He wasn't healed. Nothing had changed. Touch still burned him. Except the maid, Bray Lawson. Her touch had done nothing, not even a spark of pain. Naomi scoffed and crossed her arms. You're acting strange today. I don't know what you wanted from this, but I have to go. She left without a backward glance. Miles didn't notice. He was too busy whispering to himself. That evening, Miles wandered the mansion with his gloves off, something he had not done in years. Not around the staff, not around Naomi, not around anyone. In the kitchen, Bray was wiping down the counters before heading to bed. Her movements were slow, gentle, filled with exhaustion and grace. She didn't notice him at first, until she turned and nearly bumped into him again. Oh, sir, I didn't know you were here. Her hand flew to her chest. Her breath shook. Her cheeks warmed in embarrassment. Miles didn't step away. He didn't retreat like he always did with others. He simply watched her, like she was a puzzle his life depended on solving. "You work late," he said quietly. Bray nodded. "I'm used to it." She smiled, small and tired. Something in Miles's chest tightened, and not from pain. For the first time since the morning, he spoke the truth, running through his mind. "Your presence doesn't trouble me." Bray blinked, confused and startled. "I don't understand." Neither did he, but he intended to. More than anything, more than business, more than logic. Miles Carter needed to understand Bray Lawson, even if it meant breaking every rule he'd lived by for 15 years. Miles Carter was not a man who obsessed over anything. Not money, he already had more than he needed. Not people, not feelings. But after what happened, after Bray Lawson fell against him, she lived in his thoughts like breath. Not because of romance, not because of desire, but because of something far more important. He began to search for her, not openly, not obviously, but quietly. He switched hallways he typically avoided. Because Bray happened to be dusting there, he lingered in the kitchen longer than necessary. Because her voice was soft and calming when she counted ingredients under her breath. He stood in the library doorway, watching her place books back in alphabetical order with careful, gentle hands. Hands that touched him without pain. Each time she passed, the air shifted, softened, warmed, eased. Each time she left a room, something inside him tightened, as if her absence made the walls colder. Miles had never been addicted to anything, but now he learned what addiction felt like. Quiet, slow, dangerous, gentle. It wore Bray's face. Naomi wasn't observant about much besides jewelry, social events, and news headlines with her name in them. But she noticed this. She walked into the living room one afternoon and saw Miles without gloves. Bare-handed, he handed Bray the empty glass cup, and for a moment, she could have sworn their hands touched. She stopped walking. "What is this?" Miles didn't answer. He was watching Bray, who had retreated into the kitchen, her footsteps light and respectful. Naomi followed his gaze. Her jaw tightened. Her eyes narrowed. "That maid," she murmured. "She's everywhere." Miles turned his head slightly, expression unreadable. "She works here," he said. Naomi scoffed. "She works in every corridor you happen to appear in? Don't insult me." He said nothing. Silence was louder than truth. Naomi laughed, but it was a brittle sound. "Oh, I see. She's the reason you asked me to leave earlier? The reason you've been acting strange?" Miles didn't bother defending himself. It wasn't worth it. Naomi straightened her coat sharply. "If you embarrass me publicly, Miles, I'll go home, Naomi," he said quietly. Her words froze. "What? Leave," he repeated. "You may go home." Something in his voice made her step back. Cold, final, unshakable. Naomi collected her purse with stiff hands and left the mansion without looking back. Miles didn't even watch her go. Instead, his eyes drifted to the staircase. Bray had disappeared around the corner. His chest tightened for a reason he refused to name. Bray didn't know any of this. She didn't know she had changed anything. She didn't know her presence had become the calmest sound in his home. She didn't know that she, a maid from Shepherd's Bush, had become the quiet center of a billionaire's restless world. She only noticed one change. Miles looked at her now. Not long, not deeply, but enough for her to feel it. Like a current beneath the floor. He watched her hands as she folded towels. He watched her footsteps as she moved through hallways. He listened when she hummed softly to herself while working. It made Bray nervous. Men like him didn't watch girls like her. Not unless something was wrong. And something was wrong, she just didn't know what name to give it. Days later, Miles found Bray in the kitchen, slicing fruit quietly. Instead of walking past her or staring from afar as usual, he approached her. "What are you making?" he asked. Bray nearly dropped the knife. "Fruit salad, sir." He stepped closer, watching her hands move with surprising interest. "That looks better than what the chef made." Bray smiled shyly. "I doubt that, sir." "No," he said simply. "I mean it." She laughed softly, a warm, light sound she didn't realize she still had in her. Miles froze for a moment. Then, something changed in his eyes. Like her laughter had unlocked a memory he had lost long ago. Bray didn't notice the way he exhaled, the way his shoulders loosened, the way he lingered even after she finished cutting the fruit. Over the next several days, something invisible grew between them. They talked more. Small conversations at first, then deeper ones, about her dreams and life in general. He had never heard anyone speak that softly about dreams. He began telling her things he'd never shared with Naomi. His fears, his loneliness, his struggles, the burden of wealth he never asked for, his childhood. And Bray listened with an openness that made him feel safe in his own skin. One evening, they sat on opposite sides of the kitchen counter, while Bray chopped herbs for dinner. Miles watched her while absent-mindedly rolling an apple between his hands. Their shoulders were close, their breaths almost mingled, the silence between them. Comfortable in a way silence had never been for him. "Why do you trust me so easily?" Bray asked suddenly. Miles paused. "I don't know," he said. His voice softened. "I don't trust easily, but I trust you." Bray's heart skipped. He didn't look away. "You make the world feel quiet." The knife slipped from Bray's hand and clattered softly on the board. And Miles smiled a real, small, breathtaking smile. She didn't know what to do with it. He didn't know how to stop giving it. They were still smiling when Bray reached for the apple he held to cut it properly. Their hands brushed, and this time, neither pulled away. Miles didn't flinch. He didn't tense. He didn't freeze. He let her hand rest on his for a heartbeat too long. Bray didn't move. Their eyes met. Something shifted. Something dangerous. Something sweet. Something both of them felt but didn't dare speak. That was the moment Naomi walked in. She stepped into the kitchen in heels and a designer coat. "I came to—" She stopped mid-sentence. Her eyes widened. Her jaw dropped. Because there, right in front of her, was the one thing she thought was impossible. Miles touching someone without screaming in pain. And not just someone, the maid. Their fingers were still intertwined lightly as they looked up at her. Bray snatched her hand back instantly, stepping away so fast she bumped into the counter. Miles didn't step back. Naomi pointed at Bray, shaking in shock. What is this?" Miles stood calmly, but his eyes held something protective, something dangerous. "Naomi." "No!" she shouted. "Don't Naomi me! You never let me touch you! You can't even take a picture beside me without flinching. And now! She turned to Bray with venom. You little—" She lurched forward, her hand lifting angrily into the air. "Enough." Miles's voice cut through the room like a blade. Naomi froze. Miles stepped forward, placing himself between Naomi and Bray. His tone was deadly calm. "Don't even think about it." Something inside Naomi broke. Her eyes filled with furious tears. "So, you care about her?" Miles didn't deny it. He didn't need to. Naomi stared at them, both her pride crushed, her ego shattered, and finally grabbed her handbag. "We're done," she hissed. "Do you hear me? Done." She stormed out, heels striking the floor like gunshots. One thing was certain: she had to act fast or lose everything she had worked so hard for. Bray stood shaking, her back pressed against the counter. She whispered, "Miles, I'm so sorry." He turned toward her immediately. "Don't apologize." But she as. "I don't care about her," he said, voice low and steady. "I care about you." He hadn't planned to say it yet. The truth slipped out before he could stop it. Bray froze. The words hung in the air, warm and dangerous. Her breath trembled. Miles. But he didn't go closer, didn't push, didn't ask for anything more. He just looked at her like she was the one safe thing he'd waited half a lifetime for. "Go rest," he whispered. "I won't let anyone hurt you." Bray nodded slowly and walked away. Her heart raced the whole night. She didn't know Naomi's rage was only beginning. Naomi Sterling did not cry over broken relationships. She plotted. She planned. She struck back, and when she returned the next morning with anger twisting every inch of her face, she knew exactly how to destroy Bray. Bray woke the next morning with a feeling she didn't like, a heaviness behind her ribs, a tightness in her stomach. Yesterday, replayed in her mind with painful clarity, Miles's hand in hers, Naomi's furious scream, Miles stepping in front of her like a shield. Bray wasn't used to being protected. She didn't know what to do with the warmth that memory left in her chest. She tied her hair back and left her room, determined to focus on her duties. But the moment she stepped into the hallway, she knew something was wrong. The house was too quiet, too still, too heavy. Mr. Hargreaves, the house manager, marched toward her with a stiff expression. "Miss Lawson," he said sharply, "Mr. Carter wishes to see you in his study." Immediately, Bray blinked. "Me? Why?" His tight jaw was answer enough. Her heart thudded painfully. She followed him down the hallway, each step echoing like a warning. When she entered the study, her breath caught. Naomi was there, standing beside Miles's desk, arms folded, face sharp with triumph. Miles stood at the opposite end of the room, expression unreadable. Bray froze. Naomi stepped forward, holding a small velvet box. "Well, well," she sneered. "Look who decided to show her face." Bray swallowed. "Ma'am, I don't understand." "Oh, you will." Naomi opened the box. Inside was a bracelet, glittering, accusing. "I found this under your pillow," Naomi said sweetly. Imagine my surprise. Bray's heart dropped. She had left her room only minutes ago. So how was that even possible? But Naomi had been there. Bray's knees nearly gave out. "What?" she whispered. No, I would never steal." Naomi scoffed loudly. "Of course you would. Girls like you always do. The moment you see wealth, you lose your mind." She tilted her head with false pity. "Your mother is sick, and those hospital bills aren't paying themselves, are they?" Bray shook her head helplessly, tears burning her eyes. "I didn't take it. I don't even know how it got there." Naomi turned to Miles with crocodile tears in her eyes. "You see? This is who you've been defending. A thief." Bray's world tilted. Her throat tightened painfully. Miles looked at her. Not Naomi. Not the bracelet. Not the box. Her, Bray, he said quietly. "Did you take it?" Bray's voice cracked. "No. I swear on my mother's life. I didn't." The room went painfully silent. Naomi smiled inside her soul. She thought she had won. She lifted her chin proudly. "Well, what do you think now, Miles?" Miles turned his head slowly, and the coldness in his eyes made Naomi's breath hitch. His voice was calm. Too calm. "Check the footage." "What?" Naomi asked, startled. Miles repeated, louder this time. "Check the footage." Naomi tensed. Bray gasped softly. Mr. Hargreaves hurried to the security room. 2 guards followed. Minutes felt like years. When they returned, the guard handed Miles a tablet. He pressed play. The room filled with sound. Footsteps, breathing, a door opening. Naomi's face drained of color. There she was, in clear footage, walking into Bray's small room moments after she had left, lifting the pillow, placing the bracelet under it, and walking out swiftly. Naomi stumbled back. "Miles, I can't explain." "No," he said firmly. "No more lies." Naomi's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Miles turned his body fully toward Bray. His voice softened instantly. "I never doubted you for a moment." Bray's tears slid silently down her cheeks. Naomi exploded. "Are you really choosing her? A maid? Over me?" Miles didn't look at her. "There was never an us, Naomi. Only a contract you cared about more than the truth." End quote. She let out a broken sound, half anger, half disbelief. "This is pathetic," she hissed. "She's nothing, Miles. Nothing." He cut her off coldly. "She's everything you'll never be." Naomi froze. Bray gasped softly. Miles stepped closer to Bray. His voice was steady, but his chest rose and fell faster than usual. "You need to leave." he said without looking at Naomi. "And do not come back." Naomi's eyes filled with furious, helpless tears. "You'll regret this, Miles." But he didn't answer. 2 guards escorted her out of the mansion. Silence returned. Heavy, emotional, trembling with what almost happened. Bray wiped her cheeks quickly, embarrassed. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't want any trouble. I didn't ask for—" Miles stepped closer. "Bray," he whispered. "Look at me." She did. Her eyes were full of fear, pain, and shame that didn't belong to her. He lifted his bare hand slowly. Bray tensed, but not from fear, from everything else she felt around him now. He brushed away a tear with his thumb. Bray inhaled sharply. The touch burned her heart, not his skin. "I'm sorry she did that to you," Miles said softly. She closed her eyes, overwhelmed. "I just needed this job. I just needed to help my mother." "I know," he murmured. "And you still will. I'm not letting you go. I'm not letting you go." Those words broke her completely. She leaned forward before she could stop herself, her forehead resting lightly against his shoulder. Miles froze, not out of fear, out of emotion so fierce he had no idea how to hold it. Then, slowly, carefully, like touching something holy, he wrapped his arms around her. His first real embrace in 15 years. His cheek rested against her hair. "You're safe," he whispered. "With me, you're safe." Bray's fingers curled into his shirt. "Miles," he pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. "You're the only person who's ever touched me without hurting me," he said softly. "Do you know what that means?" Her breath trembled. "What does it mean?" His thumb brushed her cheek gently. "It means I can't imagine a life without you." Bray's lips parted in disbelief. "Miles." He leaned closer, not touching her lips, but close enough to feel her breath. Close enough to choose her. "It means I choose you," he whispered. "Now, tomorrow, every day, after this." Bray's tears fell again. Not from pain, from something like hope. She rested her forehead against his. "I choose you too." The mansion, once cold and lonely, felt warm around them. For the first time in 15 years, Miles Carter wasn't afraid of touch. He wasn't afraid of love, because the touch he once feared was the one he couldn't live without. Bray Lawson. The days that followed were quiet, but different. For the first time in 15 years, Miles walked through his own mansion without gloves. And, for the first time ever, Bray didn't step aside when he entered a room. She smiled at him now. He smiled back, and nobody in the mansion dared to say a word. Miles didn't explain anything. He didn't need to. Everyone saw the truth in how he looked at her. One morning, Bray found him in the kitchen, making tea. For her. She blinked in surprise. "You made this?" Miles nodded, slightly embarrassed. "I watched you do it 3 times. Bray laughed softly, and Miles looked lighter than anyone had ever seen him. Their conversations grew longer. Their touches grew natural. Their distance faded until it didn't exist at all. And then one evening, he said quietly, "Come with me." He drove her to Queen Mary's Hospital. Her heart pounded the whole way, thinking something was wrong. But when they reached her mother's room, Bray froze. Her mother was sitting up, smiling, brighter than she had in months. "Bray," she whispered, "they're keeping me for full treatment. Everything is covered." Bray's eyes widened, her breath breaking. She turned to Miles slowly. He didn't speak, didn't brag, didn't announce anything. He just squeezed her hand gently. Her mother looked between them and smiled knowingly. "I see why you're glowing now," she teased Bray. "Mum," Bray gasped, blushing. Miles chuckled under his breath, a sound Bray wanted to hear every day for the rest of her life. Before they left the room, Bray hugged her mother tightly, tears slipping down her cheeks. And as she stepped into the hallway, Miles took her hand again. No pain, no fear, just warmth. He looked at her with quiet certainty. "You saved my life," he whispered. "Let me make yours easier." Bray leaned into him, her voice trembling with emotion. You already have. And in that simple moment, standing in a hospital corridor full of hope, Bray realized something. Miles wasn't the untouchable billionaire anymore. He was the man she loved. The man who could finally touch the world. Because he touched her first. The end. Did you enjoy this story? Kindly let us know where you are watching from. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much for watching. And from all of us here, season's greetings to you and your family.